Okay, this is the 2025 Toronto Grand Prix, the men's 200 meter butterfly long course. So we are looking at Michael Sava in lane 3, we're looking at Benjamin Loewen in lane 4, we're looking at Bill Dongfang in lane 5, and we're looking at Kevin Maher in lane 8. All right, let us do it. We're going to see the whole race, and then I'm going to do an analysis on each of the swimmers here. And here we are. All right, very nice, and we can see the times there. All right, and we are going to start with the analysis in lane 3 with Mike. All right, right off the bat, I really like this body position on the blocks. Looking at about 90 degrees, you know, if I'm going to be really picky, I'm going to say we want to not be any more collapsed, the angle on the inside of our knee, not be any smaller than it currently is, because we want to be in a pure push position. Let's see what happens after the go. Just going frame by frame here for a second until we find it. I am starting to pan right with the camera. Yep, so the go has happened. Loving the power. You can see the gentlemen are rocking the bulkhead back. Let's come back to the start here. Very stable, Michael. This initial reaction where we can see that your shoulders are shifting, right? We can see that your lat is contracting, so you're getting a bit of a body pull going on. Technically fine, but I've never been a proponent necessarily of it because you can see that you've reacted. I'm shooting at about 24, 30 frames per second, coming back here to see it again. So you're talking about a few hundredths per frame. And you know, you hear go and are reacting. You just saw your elbow move, so go has occurred and you are doing something. Albeit, your hips start moving forward very fast after the pull, but there are a couple of frames there where you've clearly physically reacted and you're not moving on the blocks. So there's an opportunity there to get ahead of people on the blocks, all right? The way we're going to do that is by making that back leg be the firing mechanism. That's your firing pin. Go occurs and the spark hits here. Good pressure off that back leg. Love to see that extension. Love to see that extension even more. You are clearly putting all of your force directly down into the wedge, almost on the same angle that it sits at. Great extension on that front leg. Great body position. Head might be a teensy bit low. Great entry. Little bit of a flop on the back legs there. Could see that. But man, great entry. Great dive. Great underwater. Little bumpy is what I'd like to say. You can see you're kind of head bopping. I'd like it to be a little smoother, but hey, is it affecting us that badly? I'd say maybe not. So, kind of, a moot point. A little bit slow into the wall there. Breathing in your first strokes off the wall, I'd prefer to see establishing strokes. First 3 strokes off of any wall, or the dive even, right? Give us an opportunity to set ourselves up for success for the remainder of the length, even if it's a 200 butterfly, which is a slog, as you know, because you swim it. If breathing is always in the way, if we could not breathe, we would not breathe. We have to breathe, unfortunately, so we do. And a lot of technique and a lot of swimming is organized around making sure that breathing doesn't impact the rest of the stroke. So even if you're a god at breathing, if you're that good, then it's truly a point that doesn't matter. But, I'm here to tell you, you're not that guy. And you know what? Also, no one here is that guy. No one probably in Canada or the world is that guy. Breathing is affecting the stroke. And taking a few initial strokes with essentially a choice of hamstringing yourself, not the most tactically or strategically sound decision. So a couple of establishing strokes might be a bit better. You are breathing every stroke. Let's see if this is a strategic decision that you're leading into the next 50 maybe, trying to oxygenate and preserve energy levels. Pretty weak push off the wall there. The dive is the fastest part of any swim. The one underwater after the dive is the second fastest part of any swim. The third fastest part of any swim should be the push off of the wall, and then the fourth fastest and slowest part of any swim should be the swimming itself. I don't think that's the case because that was a pretty light push off of the wall, but here's the thing. The reason why pushing off the wall can be so fast for us is because when we're dealing with water, it's dealing with what's called an unstable system, versus the wall is a stable system. You push off of a wall, and the wall doesn't get out of our way. The energy almost perfectly reflects back at us, and we are able to, create forward motion, for better or worse. Runners push off of the ground, and all of that energy, a little bit of dirt kicks up, a little bit of energy is wasted in that, but the rest of it reverberates back up the skeleton and into forward locomotion. Pushing off of the water, different story. We are dealing with a highly inefficient sport here. There's a reason why you can walk alongside the fastest swimmer in the world, because swimming is not very fast. We are dealing with an unstable system where we try and push off of it, and it gets out of our way very easily. Use the opportunity to push off of something that's not going to get out of our way. Breathing off of our initial strokes again, we're maintaining the strategy of breathing. Now, this might be just how you swim your 200 butterfly. At which point I would say any work you can do to even get a breathing every other stroke might be a serious advantage. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off here. That's totally my bad. I was filming this one. Apologies for that. Let's assume that was the best turn ever. You're clearly driving right now. Clearly driving. I love it. But you're breathing every single stroke. Especially from here on out. This is a moment where you can decide, man, I'm going to just drill this and not breathe and go in, because I guarantee you're non-breathing. If I asked you to do a dive 25 or a dive 15 meters, and that was all I was asking you, right? I'm not asking you to go any farther than that. You wouldn't breathe, or if you are, then that's truly a mistake on your part. You wouldn't breathe going that short a distance, because you know that you don't need the oxygen to complete that distance of a race. 200 butterfly, I was asking, are you breathing every stroke earlier? Good finish there, by the way. Are you breathing every stroke there because you're tactically or strategically setting yourself up, oxygenating yourself so that you can do the third or the fourth length with very little breathing? I'd like to see that outcome. Instead, it was breathing almost every stroke for 150 meters. So this is awesome. This is a low-hanging fruit for you. If you can improve your breath control on the 200 butterfly, you're going to see improvements there. As much as a guarantee can occur in swimming, that's about as close as you can get to one. Great swim, though. I really like the energy that you had going into the final 50 there. And overall, your stroke is very nice. Your dive, wonderful. Let's move over to Ben in lane 4. Good body position. I love the angle on the back foot there. You're pretty forward, which is great, right? If we could theoretically start out in open space, we would. Swim less. Let's see what fires first. I think I'm panning right when the go occurs, so I'm expecting right around now. Okay, perfect. I believe that is a push coming off the back foot. You can see the hips moving forwards there. The head is dropping a little bit, but that might just be because the hips are moving forward and you're rolling forward because of this back press rather than an actual dip, which is good. Good press. Good press. Head's a little low, and it's a little floaty. For such a great press, we can see, we're driving right now, but there's a little bit less shape than we'd like in the dive because you kind of flop into the water. You get to this point and you can see you're kind of falling a little bit. It's just not shaped. I'd like to see a bit more of a sharper, higher angle of attack. Even if that means your hands are entering here, right, and your hips are a little bit more forwards, we're on a slightly sharper angle, right? I'd like to see that because then we can hit the water really smoothly and level out. Smooth entries are key because you're disturbing a lot of water, which means that a lot of water is stopping you from moving fast forward. A little bouncy on that in the upper body there, ribs up, a little bit of motion going on, but overall a pretty good kick. So nice, but if we can stabilize that upper body a bit more, that'll be even better. Nice start. 2 good strokes. Really easy looking. Really easy looking. Your head might not be as forward and down as I'd... you know what? I think it's actually pretty darn nice. So, great. We're just rolling. Little wide on the arms there. Do you see that difference? Let's check out this stroke where you're entering. That's kind of wide too. I think that's pretty much in shoulder width, maybe just a hair outside a shoulder width entry. Maybe you're getting a bit wider here. That one I think was wider. That one might have been wider. That one looked more in line. But that looked wide. That looked wide. That looks wide. That looked inside. That looked... Okay, that last one was back to it. You just see how... you're dealing with water distortion and everything, but you're kind of entering out here rather than a bit more in line with where your shoulder width is. This one, you get all the way around and you're clearly entering out in front of you. So I'd like to see you not make big adjustments coming into the wall. I'd like to see the 5 meters hitting each wall look a lot like you were just in the middle of the pool swimming your swim. Great kick underwater, maybe a little bit light. Could be a bit stronger. Getting breaths in. Looking very easy. You look like you're just rolling. A little bit of a slowdown, I'd say, coming into the flags there. Decent turn, decent underwater. Maybe a little light on the water again. That's a good thing to note. You know, maybe pushing off the wall a bit harder can save you a little bit of time. And you know what? Probably not for that much more energy. These strokes are looking slower all of a sudden. Hopefully you're seeing that too. Looking a little bit floppy's not the right word, but like you're pancaking the water a bit more. Looks a little closer to what we'd call survival fly. To be clear, this is obviously not survival fly. You're swimming at a pretty high level, but compared to the first 100, there's a difference in stroke now for this last, 15 meters of the 150? Coming into the 150, rather. Good underwater. Power. Breathing on those first couple of strokes, I'd rather see no breathing on the first couple of strokes. Establishing strokes. Set yourself up for success. And non-breathing strokes are faster than breathing strokes. You are powering in. I think that you're not breathing there, right? So great decision to go into the finish not breathing, or if you are breathing, right, you're clearly doing a heads down variation breath. So great level of bodily control, great level of awareness, and also ability. Doing heads down breathing in butterfly is not easy to do, let alone to execute it in a race. But there's a reason why it can have an advantage, and it's because you keep your body in line with itself a lot more. It's a lot more streamlined, right? Efficient. So amazing. Love that last 20 meters was you just absolutely deciding to essentially turn the afterjets on. Great. Right there, we can see that transition. You clearly just turned on. Boom. Let's look at this. Oops, sorry. There we go. I mean, that's looking pretty darn good. I think it could look better if you had some of that non-breathing stroke. And then you can breathe all along here, absolutely. Get set for your move. But there we go. That stroke, you just absolutely started to take over. What if you were operating at a higher speed when you decided to make your move, right? And that's where I think the first couple of strokes of each length, not breathing, can get you to that position. Really great swim, dude. Okay, coming over to Bill. We're in lane 5 here. Good body position. That back leg looks like it's in a 90 degree. We can kind of see right there the, like the angle, the back of your hammies. So I like it. You're looking very forward oriented, right? Your shoulders are out over the water, which is great. We love to see that. Let's start advancing forward. What moves first? I love that. Nicely done. We can clearly see that your back leg is the first thing that's firing. Okay? There's no wasted anything going on there. There's no fat on that, okay? First reaction is to be doing something that is going to be propelling you to the other side of the pool, which is the only goal of swimming. Great extension. Another great extension. Head might be a little bit low in streamline. A little bit floppy on the end there, so maybe a bit more tensity in the core, in the trunk. But we can see you're powering. Honestly, maybe you're jumping up a little bit more than I like. Maybe jumping out might help with that, because you kind of fall in the water there at the end. Big splash means that you're essentially creating big drag. Pretty good underwater. Kicking definitely from the hips, maybe a little bit too knee-ish. I'd like to see a little bit of amplitude in the core. Like, there is a bit, but maybe a bit more would be nice. And I'd say the upper body stability is pretty good. But, if you're going to increase the amplitude of your kick, the stability might suffer. So it is playing between that seesaw effect. Looking real easy for your first 50. You look like you're out for a Sunday swim, which is perfect. We want to look like that. I'd rather look like we're swimming easy than we're swimming our hearts out. Maybe a little high in the head coming into the wall here. Could be a perspective issue. but it looked like you weren't getting your head down as much as you were earlier, even in that length. Underwater there for maybe a little bit too long. Looking good again. Head's not quite getting down the way I'd like it to. Okay, well, it did there. Maybe just consistent. Yeah, that's more one where, not liking that. Like, your head is basically up. You're kind of face planting the wall, or the water, rather. Something important to note here. You have made up ground in this 50, okay? And the only reason you had to make up ground is because of the underwater. Let's check out where we are in comparison to lane 4. He is, what, head and shoulders, maybe full upper body ahead of you? Now, to your credit, you were catching him already. You're catching both of these guys. But, let's not play the catch-up game. Because he's head and shoulders ahead of you here. You're maybe at his hips. And yet, you get to the wall, if not first, right at the same time. You make up for your bad underwater on the 50 with that good underwater on the 100. Now you're in a race. It would be nice to have hit that first wall, or rather that second wall, ahead of these guys by half a body length, because now you'd be neck and neck, but I think he's past you here. Shortening up the stroke. Coming into the wall pretty slow there because of the short stroke. Right? Let's look at that again. Right? Where's that forward travel happening? You're actually just sinking down. We almost see that your shoulders stop moving. Right? Your hips are sunk, your shoulders not moving. You have to really dive kick to get to the wall there. Don't necessarily like that. You might be trying to look for him there. Swim your own swim, right? This is technically an individual sport, and while it is easier to swim with people where you can hunt and chase and, get away from them, it is a better position to be where you could swim your best in a pool by yourself. That's theoretically an ideal. It's not a realistic one, but there's the outcome of that. Check out your head entry. Big face plant. You're hitting the water and still bringing your head back in line with your spine. So you've just given yourself 2 bastardized strokes. You're still doing it. Right? So in the last 50, to start yourself off, right? In a neck and neck race, this is a race where, whoever is going to execute the best is going to probably win it. And you've given, of the first 4 strokes in your length, you've given your opponent 4 opportunities to beat you, and he's probably beating you in 3 of them at least, right? So don't give your opponents opportunities. You want to be taking opportunities from your opponents. And the only way to do that is to play or swim flawless, 200 butterfly. In essence, you can't make mistakes. You don't want to make mistakes. Mistakes will happen, right? Your opponents will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. But if you make more of them, then I'm going to guess the other guy's going to beat you if you guys are equally, fast, essentially. It's getting a little short, a little hacky. Hack into the water. Hack into the water. Hack into the water. And he turns on the afterjets there. He starts to roll away from you. You turn on the afterjets now. But it's too late. He already made his move. All right? You see how that works? You start the last 50 there, looking for him, giving him opportunities, essentially hamstringing yourself. And then when you're not looking, he makes a move. So, did looking help? The answer is no, right? Looking didn't help. But giving yourself the best chance to succeed by not hamstringing yourself at the start of that length would have put you probably a little bit farther ahead. And because you would have been traveling at a higher velocity, if you had decided to make that move on your own decision rather than as a reaction to him having made his move, it would have been a lot closer. But, you know what? Pretty darn good swim, dude. Let's take a look now at Kevin. Kev, we're the far lane here. Initially, let's see if you settle a bit more. Yes. Okay. Oops, too far. That front leg, very up and down. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see you on the blocks a bit more like that right now. Could you balance at this point? Maybe not, but also maybe, yeah. If, let's pretend you weren't, like leaning forward, but you were, standing in this semi-squat position with your legs bent like this, okay? And then I put you under a squat rack. You're standing up in this example, okay? I put you in a squat rack and you're standing with this kind of, bend in your leg. I could put hundreds of pounds on your back and you could go from this, very shallow squat position to a standing extended position relatively easily, right? You'd be able to lift hundreds of pounds. So the weight can be very high. You can do a lot of lifting if you're only moving an inch or 5, but the work you're doing is not much work. So we want to be in a position where our muscles are coiled like a spring, right? If we only compress this spring a little bit, like it doesn't matter how strong the spring is just not going to do or yield much mechanical work for us. We want those springs to be coiled. We're big cats, all right? And we want to be bouncing. So getting collapsed, check out how now this front leg is more closer to 90 degrees. I'd rather you not spend the first, 10 frames of the go. Now, big asterisks here. You're moving forwards really well and you're clearly beating everyone off the blocks, but we're not interested in, just patting ourselves on the back because we did one thing great. We want to be greater. So I think a way for you to be greater, you clearly have a great reaction time. But getting into a position where your body is set to explode a little earlier, a little bit more efficiently, that's just going to be a deadly combination for you. Great extension on that back foot. Front leg, good extension. I'm not a huge fan of this body position. We can kind of ignore the back foot here, but you can even see the lower leg. You're kind of rocking with a concave, little motion there. I'd like to see a bit more tenseness in the core, the trunk area. You see your foot travel up so much. So it's right on the block there, and then it goes up. That tells me that the energy that you're pushing out is not actually like back and down, but it's kind of up, all right, which is not going to yield forward motion in exactly the vector that we want it to be. And I think that might be contributing to these low hips. Hands do not make it together. It's a high drag environment and it's a hydro brake that you're creating. This is awesome because this is such a small and I would argue easy fix that is going to yield results to you. How much? We're about to do a 200 butterfly, right? Are we worrying about 100th of a second? And I would say yeah. Honestly, yes, you're worrying about 100th of a second. If you're going to lose a race or win a race by 100th of a second, you should worry about it here because we want to look at low-hanging fruits. If you could save 100th of a second, 5/100ths of a second, maybe a 10th of a second, maybe. I would personally kind of doubt that you could save that much by having a good streamline, but maybe honestly, yeah, you could probably save that much time. Like, do you want to, do you, whatever time you went in this race, do you want to go a 10th of a second faster? And if the answer is yes, which hopefully it is, like maybe it's right here. Swim the swim exactly the way you're about to swim it, but maybe getting those hands together is the difference. Otherwise, honestly, pretty good splash. Like, as in, it's pretty like a little floppy, a little bit of a big splash, honestly. It doesn't, yeah, okay. I take it back. Bit of a splash there, right? Big splash means that we're hitting with a high surface area, which means that we are wasting the velocity and power that we generated jumping off the blocks and letting it distribute into the water. I don't want to waste any energy, and I hope you don't want to waste any energy, okay? You've already used the energy. This isn't like you can get it back or you can save it up for somewhere. You used the energy at this point. It's how efficient is it going to be, right? How much is this going to get you? And it could get you more. Simple as that. From the couple of frames there that we could see, looks like you have a great underwater kick. Loving the first couple of strokes. Such an easy looking stroke. Maybe those hips could get a little higher on the dive forward. Ooh, you see that stroke there? That one, the breathing stroke. You are shoving the water with your chest and shoulders and face. Right? Want to get up and over that hump. There's a little bow wave right in front of you. And ideally, we get over it rather than push into it. This might be a common feature of your breathing strokes, which is good because then we know we can really see some major improvement by working on that. Your non-breathing strokes look great though, dude. You are getting over that hump in the water very nicely when you're not breathing. But the breathing, you know what? Those breathing strokes are kind of looking a bit better. Yeah. You know, it's give or take. But the non-breathing strokes definitely looked good. I can appreciate breathing for a lot of this 50. Coming into the wall. Yeah, I'd like to see a bit more of a drive through the underwater. Drive to the breakout rather than let those kicks happen the way they do. You know, like kick, 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 kick. It's almost, a slower pace than your regular swim. I really like it. Your stroke though when you're coming off the walls. Short course butterfly for you is probably sweet. It's, here and out in the 50 meters. That is, and this is a bad perspective. So I might be seeing an exaggerated reality. Trying to catch swimmers from behind while they swim away does things about, perspectives. But it just does look like you're shortening up as you're finishing up those lengths. This start to this 50 doesn't look as good as the last one did. Hopefully you see kind of the difference there too, but I love the move you're making here. You're clearly driving, clearly going for it, which is awesome. Get that head down. I would recommend, if that was a look, I don't like that. If that was you trying to check out where that guy is, don't like that. He's going to beat you or he's not going to beat you. And you looking at him at that late in the swim isn't going to affect it. You're not looking there. You're not looking there. I don't know. Oh, okay. So this is great though, right? Like, the guy that doesn't know what to fix is at a disadvantage compared to the guy that knows what to fix. You have an opportunity here to get a way better time. One, I'd like to see you driving to the wall at the end of even a 200 butterfly, not breathing as much, right? I was singing your praises earlier in this 200 free butterfly because of how easy your butterfly looked. It looks like you're working hard because it's 200 butterfly. You are working hard, but it looks like you're working hard. Part of that's coming from the breathing stroke. Part of that's because the breathing stroke is less efficient than the non-breathing stroke. You have a great non-breathing stroke when you're at this point in the race, right? It's do or die. Who cares about if, you don't have oxygen in your system? Get into those other energy reserves, right? Work through the pain. Use the better stroke that you have. I would honestly prefer a glide here. We have maybe not the absolute perfect perspective here, but if you were able to get your head down into a diving motion a bit more, you honestly do it enough. But the reality is, you almost headbutt the wall, right? That last stroke, unnecessary. If you had glided here, you probably would have preserved most of the speed that you had. If you had spent the last 20 meters doing heads down butterfly, not breathing, you would have been operating at an even higher speed. And then when you get to this point and you do that head forward dive and you let that glide occur, it's in streamline effectively, right? Streamline is the most efficient body position to be in, and I guarantee you, even at this slower suboptimal speed, you probably would have touched faster than this. Overall, a couple of things to work on. I really liked a lot of those things. Like, you have a really nice butterfly. The breathing needs to be improved. Maybe the breakouts need to be improved. And I think your last 50 strategy could use a bit of work. But otherwise, a great swim. I really like the moxie on that one. Overall, great swim from everybody here.